One of the most controversial aspects of recent Minecraft updates has been the mob votes. I mean, go onto Twitter and say you wanted penguins in the game and you'd probably get executed. Now, there were a lot of reasons I and many others don't really like these votes. Primarily, it came down to the claim that once the mob loses, it would never be added to the game again. I already have a whole video talking about that problem, but there's more to the issue than just that. So far, most of the winners have turned out to be underwhelming, or sometimes the worst mob in the game, thanks Phantom. But recently taking a look at the snapshots for 1.20.1, and I have to say, they're doing a great job with the armadillo. Actually, the armadillo stuff is coming in 1.20.5. And that's a pretty big thing for me to say since I personally wanted crabs to win last year. While I still think I would have preferred crabs, I'm no longer too sad about it losing. So in today's video, I want to do two things. First, I want to cover why I think the armadillo is succeeding where the other winners have not. Then I want to take a look at all the previous winners and give some possible ideas on how they could be more useful in the future. As Minecraft is a constantly updating game, they can always go back and fix previous problems. I mean, they just recently overhauled the bat's texture, which I'm still not used to yet. So that means in this video, we'll be trying to improve the phantom, glow squid, allay, and sniffer. On top of those though, I figure why not add on the biome boat mobs as well, being the fox, goat, and frogs. Also, apparently the panda is from a Chinese exclusive mob boat, so sure, they can join the fun too. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. At 200k, I'm ranking every 2D Mario level, and let's jump right in. First off, why am I such a big fan of the armadillo? Well, let's start with what it was advertised to do. At Minecon Live, it was said that the armadillo would be used to make armor for wolves. Now, the reason I didn't want it winning is because, well, to be frank, I wouldn't use it much. Don't get me wrong, I almost always have a wolf, but I almost never let it leave my base. That's just because the wolf was so vulnerable, and I personally didn't expect wolf armor to change that. I mean, if a wolf jumps into lava, there's only so much you can do. But once the armor was actually added, they implemented it in a pretty interesting way. It works very differently from both player and horse armor. Instead of just reducing the damage taken, the wolf will not take any damage unless the armor breaks. Unless you use potions, don't do that. This actually makes the feature far more interesting to me, because that will make wolves significantly less vulnerable to dying. The way you get this armor from the armadillos is by using a brush on them, which I think is a good way to expand upon the new tool. The armadillo will drop an armadillo scute, and 6 of these are needed to make the armor. The armor itself has 64 durability, so it's got a pretty solid amount of uses. Now that is great and all, but still not the most exciting feature in the world, at least to me. It's what they advertised, so for people that voted for it, this would be perfectly acceptable. But what really got me to like the armadillo past how well the wolf armor was implemented were the additional features that came with it. There are 3 big additional things the armadillo brought that were not shared in their announcement. First, let's go with the smallest of the bunch, the fact that the wolf armor can actually be dyed. Now this is a standard for leather armor types, but there was no telling if that applied here too. Just like the leather armor, this isn't just confined to the 16 dye colors, as you can combine a bunch of dyes to get specific shades. Look, I made my wolf the exact shade of purple as purple guy! On top of being able to dye the armor, armadillos got a special property regarding spiders. Since they're bred using spider eyes, spiders and cave spiders are actually afraid of the mob, so whenever they see an armadillo, they'll run for their lives. That might just seem like a cute little interaction, but if you've ever built a creeper farm before, you know that its fear of cats are often what make the farms work. Now I don't know for sure yet if armadillos will be used in future spider farms, but I think it's got a good chance of being helpful. However, both of those additional changes pale in comparison to the final one, which is what inspired me to make this video. They're adding 8 brand new wolf types. The wolf pack grows stronger. This is an addition I genuinely never thought they'd do. Yes, they are just retextures using the same model, but I honestly prefer that approach. While I will still probably leave my wolves at home when I play, thus making the armor a bit useless for me, this change actually does affect me. I'm gonna have a lot of fun trying to collect all 9 wolf types, especially since they each spawn in different biomes. Ashen will spawn in snowy taigas, black will spawn in old growth pine taigas, chestnut will spawn in old growth spruce taigas, the original wolf will spawn in taigas, rusty will spawn in sparse jungles, snowy will spawn in groves, spotted will spawn in savanna plateaus, striped will spawn in wooded badlands, and woods would spawn in forests. Obviously that means some wolves will be rarer than others, which I think will be a fun system. I hope they added advancement for collecting them all similar to a complete catalog. They should name it what the dog's doing. Now technically this change doesn't exactly connect to the armadillo, but it's clear that it was only added because it won. So I think the reason I love the armadillo so much is because it doesn't feel like they're doing the bare minimum. They didn't have to add wolf variants or the spider fear, but them doing so allowed the armadillo to have so much more depth as an inclusion. But that's also where my problem lies with most of the other mob vote winners. They just feel like the bare minimum. In some cases, they honestly feel even less than that. So for the rest of this video, I'm gonna try and come up with a few ideas on how these mobs could be tweaked to be more interesting or useful. Obviously, these aren't the only ways they could go about this, but it's just what my insane mind came up with. So going in chronological order here, we have... it's this guy. Now, I could just cross my arms and go, yeah, they should just remove him, but that's not really productive. Also, they basically did that by adding a game rule for it. That's embarrassing. So how can I make this thing actually more useful? Pretty much the only thing it's good for is making slow falling potions from its phantom membrane. Sure, it could also repair elytras, but just use mending. Honestly though, I'm really struggling here. The problem with the mob is how it spawns, but at the same time, changing that feels like it defeats the point. So I'm just gonna add a few more things for the membrane to do, even if that doesn't really fix this guy's problem. First off, I think using a fermented spider eye on a slow falling potion would be a good way to get levitation. While the effect does exist, it can only be gotten from shulkers right now. Obviously the potion wouldn't last for that long, since flying up for 8 minutes or something would be traumatic. Where am I? Other than that though, I really don't have much else, so let's just move on. Next up is the panda, who had its vote in 2018. Like I said though, it was a China exclusive, which is why many people don't talk about it when it comes to these votes. I guess I should mention the mobs that lost this vote, which were the golden monkey, deer, pink dolphin, and crocodile. Honestly, I probably would have voted Panda 2 of this bunch. Currently, pandas don't really do that much, which I guess is pretty accurate to real life. They do have one interesting feature though, and the fact that there are several different variants, some of which have actual gameplay changes. Currently, there are 7. The normal panda doesn't do anything special, and the brown panda doesn't either, but it is very rare. Now, I think it is really cool that there's a rare panda color, but I also think it'd be cool if a brown panda could come in the different personality types as well. So I think it would be neat if we got a brown lazy, worried, playful, aggressive, and weak panda. Sure, that doesn't really change too much, but I don't think the pandas were in desperate need of updates anyway. They do their job of adding some life to jungle biomes, and the bamboo that came with them recently got upgraded to essentially be a new wood type. In the same year as the panda, we got the biome chooser, which essentially acted as a mob vote but for biomes. In this case, the winner was the taiga, which brought with it the brand new fox mob. Like the panda, this is another one that's mostly aesthetic. It's even got its own unique variation in the form of the snow fox. That's not to say that fox doesn't have any uses though, and I think they can be expanded on. For example, when a fox spawns, they have a 20% chance to spawn in with an item. Those items are a feather, leather, wheat, egg, rabbit hide, rabbit's foot, and an emerald. When killed, the fox will also drop this item, which can rarely be helpful. I think it'd maybe be cute if the snow fox could have an exclusive item like a snowball, though obviously that's a minor addition that doesn't change much. What would be a more substantial change comes in the form of glowberries. Foxes are able to be bred with both sweet berries and glowberries. Because of that, foxes are actually able to harvest sweet berries for themselves by plucking it off the bush. Since the item goes flying off afterwards, we can use this feature to create automatic sweet berry farms. It's not the most helpful thing in the world, but the option is there. This, however, does not apply to the glowberry, despite both being harvested in the same way by clicking the plant where the berries are. So I think it'd be a good addition for the foxes to be able to pluck berries off of glowberry vines. You could already make automatic glowberry farms using pistons, but this could provide for a different approach. Finally, the last fox change I'd make is to let tamed ones attack zombie villagers. They attack normal zombies, but I guess they just forgot to program those. Next up on our list is the goat! The goat! In the game already, we have a decent use being the goat horns. You can get a goat to drop these by having them ram into a wall like an idiot. Currently, there are 8 different goat horns, each of which play a different sound. Half of the horns come from normal goats, whereas the other half are exclusive to screaming goats. I think that provides for a decent enough use, but they could definitely go farther. In fact, they actually did. Before the goat was officially added, there were a lot more goat horns in the snapshots. They were crafted with copper and more than doubled the count of available horns. I believe the original count was 20 different horns, which makes me really confused as to why they decided to remove all the copper ones. The copper horns also had the additional feature of playing a slightly different sound depending on if you were looking up, crouching, or doing neither. The only reason I could find for their removal comes from the wiki, saying they didn't live up to developer expectations, whatever that means. I think they should try and add these back. It feels a bit ridiculous that we have so little sounds compared to the snapshots. But now we're finally back to actual mob vote winners with the glow squid. This is where things start to get a little bit more interesting. While I do genuinely think the glow squid is one of the more useful mobs in this video, I also think it's one of the ones with the least tap potential. Starting off, why doesn't it actually glow? I mean, compared to its surroundings it looks quite bright, but it doesn't actually produce any sort of light. This is something a lot of people were disappointed in when it was added, since the mob vote video seemed to imply it would produce light. I was disappointed because I didn't want it, rest in peace Lysologer. On top of it not being able to glow, the glow item frame also doesn't produce light either. Now yes, the glow item frame is still helpful in making maps much easier to look at for example, but I would have liked for them to still light up the surrounding area, at least a little bit. The glow ink sac is also only used for 2 things right now, making the text on signs brighter and making the glow item frame. Now to be fair, those are 2 pretty solid uses. I definitely use the sign one all the time. However, However, I also think there are plenty of other things they could make glow. For example, while this may be a bit complicated, I think it'd be cool if a glow effect could be added to banner patterns. You would apply glow ink when adding the color in the loom, which could provide for some more unique banner designs, especially if you can make some layers glow and the others remain standard. If they want to make it so whole banners have to glow though, then maybe banner markers on maps could also receive this glow to make them stand out more. They could also let the glow ink be added to paintings to make them brighter as well. I'm sure there's a lot of other things they could also make glow, but the point is that it'd be cool if glowing sacks had a few more uses. I guess you could also let them make potions of glowing. Not that it'd be the most helpful potion in the world, but in multiplayer scenarios, it might be helpful in finding your friends if you get lost, assuming you don't know how to press the F3 key. Our next mob vote winner came to us in the form of the Allay, who for the most part does about what I'd expect. It picks up items as set to and throws them at note blocks. This even includes non-stackable items, which makes them pretty good for automatic sorting systems. To be honest, I really don't have any problems with the Allays. They're definitely pretty niche, but they fill a good role and do it well. Stop using the word niche. Moving us right along, we have another mob that comes from the 2019 biome vote, being the frog. Like the Allay, I think its current uses are good, but I also think they can be expanded. The main reason you want frogs are to get the 3 different frog lights, which are really nice looking lighting blocks. My favorite part about them though are the colors. They essentially come in yellow, green, and purple. While there are plenty of yellow light blocks, these are basically the only green and purple ones, making them extremely valuable. The way you get the frog lights are by having a frog eat a magma cube, and the color you get is based on the biome frog you used. My suggestion here is pretty simple. I'd love to see more frog lights in more colors. As for the colors, I'd love to get a red or blue light block. Yo, that's like Mario colors, no way. As for the biome of these frogs, I think maybe the jungle could be a good place. Also, I know they won't do this, but I think it'd be really funny if they add a poison frog type that can kill you. It'd be like a killer bunny, but a little less rabbit and more light. But now it's time we've reached our final mob of this video, and if I'm totally honest, the biggest disappointment as well. The sniffer feels like a complete waste of potential. He was advertised to sniff up ancient seeds, and yeah, I guess they did that. He can sniff up a whopping 2 things, torchflower seeds and pitcher pods. Personally, I think the torchflower looks okay, but I'm not really a fan of the pitcher plant. Both flowers can also be turned into orange and cyan dye respectively. Yeah, that is very underwhelming. It feels like the absolute bare minimum, and unlike the other mobs in this video, I almost have no reason to ever see it. Even if on the more pointless side, stuff like the panda are at least present in the world for better ambience. For the sniffer though, you have to go out of your way to find it, and I think most people just don't bother. So what can Mojang do to fix this guy? Let him sniff up more stuff. I mean, just increasing the plant count here would help a good amount. There was also a leak going around that seemed to show there was another plant in development that got scrapped, so why did they settle for only 2? I don't want to just say add more though, because I think I came up with a fun idea that would make the sniffer significantly more useful. As I said, the point is that it sniffs up ancient seeds, so what if you could find a seed that, when grown into a flower, could be crafted into a brand new dye? But this wouldn't just be any dye. Did you know that Minecraft has actually had 2 wool colors removed from the game? That would be the spring green wool and the rose wool, which were present in Minecraft Classic Edition before being removed. So one could say these are ancient colors, which would fit the sniffer's theme nicely. Then it would have 2 dye colors exclusive to it, making the mob much more valuable. Sure, they'd have to make new color blocks for these 2 dyes, but that should not be hard as it's literally just changing the color of the same texture. Except for glazed terracotta, I guess, but who cares? So yeah, I think the sniffer should absolutely get more seeds to find that hopefully lead to more helpful plants. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you hate Allays and hate me for not changing them? Let me know in the comments. I'm really happy they seem to be going above and beyond with the armadillo, so I really hope that changes for these other mobs come too. Many of them are fine as is, but there's definitely a lot of missed potential here. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.